Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, today I'm going a little bit against the grain. I'm going to share this entire video. We'll see how it goes.
You already mentioned you have had doubts throughout, but what was the culmination of that led you to actually physically leave?
I had a child. And I just love him dearly. I loved him and I love him dearly. And your perspective changes when you're a parent. It's one thing to waste your life. It's another thing to bring someone in the world and waste theirs. I had a very good education, even though I didn't finish high school. It was all private schools, and I was very proud of my education, and I wanted him to have that. I wanted him to have opportunities. I wanted him to make an adult choice about whatever religion he decides to join, if he decides to join. And because of the terrible experiences and what I'd seen when I was a nanny, I didn't ever want him to be in there. I was married, okay, and my husband was a die-hard Scientologist. He was so brainwashed. He couldn't even, he couldn't disagree with anything. He couldn't see something right in front of his nose, see somebody hurting or in pain, or a child that's not getting cared for or anything, and he couldn't see what was in front of his nose. He had explained away everything, why this was all okay, and created a lot of friction. And when I got pregnant, I was married. I've been married 6 months.
When did you get married? How old were you?
20.
20, okay.
And I got pregnant, and he decided early in my pregnancy, I was about 4 months pregnant, that he was going to go to FLAG to train to be a senior executive. And I look at him, I'm like, I'm pregnant. You're going to leave me? Oh, it's only going to be a few months. I go, you know better than that. Nobody goes to FLAG and comes back in less than a year or two.
Jeez.
And, no, that's not true. No. Yeah, right. So I'm like, wow. So he left while I was pregnant. So that was like this was our first big break as a couple, where I'm going, disloyalty, broken loyalty.
Absolutely.
This is your family, and you've got a child coming into the world that's your child, and you want to go off to Florida, and not be there with me to help me through the pregnancy and just be my spouse. Apparently that wasn't important enough.
Wow.
So he finally comes back, and baby comes like 3 weeks later, and I don't want to even talk about that part. That's too embarrassing to him. But yeah, after the baby, I was like, nesting instincts. We need a nice place, and I didn't want to let the baby go. To the CEO, or I didn't want somebody else watching my baby.
Yeah, of course.
So, and this was cute. There was like 2 other women that had a child over at AOLA at the same week I did. Same week. So we all had boys. So we were a little bit of a union. And we all had good posts. So we were like a union, the 3 mothers union. And we decided we are not putting our children in the CO, we're keeping them right here with us. And that lasted a long time. And Ivan Obelinsky, bless his heart, he didn't give us a hard time over it. And we had, you know, it was like a year, close to a year, that I had my son with me, and I'd be doing these ethics interviews, but they weren't that heavy duty. And I'd have him under a blanket, and I'd be nursing him under the blanket. People didn't even realize he was there, you know. And, you know, another real odd thing is my husband worked in the OT5 section, and they'd have people always waiting around this gorgeous lounge room, waiting for their sessions, because they'd go in for like 20 minutes and come out, and then you have to wait to go in for another 20 minutes. Don't ask me why it ran that way, it just did. And there was a woman there who had just had a child. And she was a celebrity of some sort. I don't remember her name. She was so pretty. And she met my son and just thought he was the cutest little kid. And she goes, look, you know, between sessions, I'm happy to babysit for you. And that was good, and that helped me through that part too. Eventually, we were all forced by the Commodore's messenger board to get our kids into the child estates order, and I'm like, oh, I'm so upset about that. My son was in for 4, maybe 6 weeks before he became extremely sick. He came down with the herpes virus that everyone gets as a kid. I mean, there's type 1, 2, I don't forget which is which, but there's one that we all have in our systems that makes cold sores and stuff like that. And he came down with that when he was just an infant, way too early. So he wasn't treated for it immediately, and he got extremely, extremely sick. He got some sort of contusion on his eye as a result of that. And the CEO, which were pretty good people for the most part, you know, understaffed like crazy, too many kids, but they contacted me and says, you need to take him out. And I was like, out? They're like, out. And I was like, thank you. And I was told I had to bring him back after he got over that, but he never fully got over it. He had this mark on his eye, which he didn't get treated for until he was a teenager. I can talk more about that later if you want. Anyway, he had this mark on his eye that was supposed to be not cancerous, not dangerous, not bad or anything in any way, and since he was still growing, they didn't want to touch it.
Is it the doctor that told you that it wasn't dangerous? Okay.
Yeah. At that time my pay wasn't too bad because I had book commissions. So I could pay to take him to the doctor. Yeah. And the clinic itself wasn't that expensive, $60, $80. And it's high, but it's not outrageous. I got to be an executive then. I was the executive establishment officer, so I had a little bit of leverage, and I said, okay, he's not going back in there. He gets an outside nanny. And I got to choose the outside nanny. Now, this was something, again, that Ivan didn't know other organization was doing this. Only AOLA was doing this, because it was our sort of way of bucking against management. It was our silent sort of union push. They were undermanned, the kids weren't getting attention, they were getting sick over the child care organization, and this was a way to not push more kids on them and make sure our kids got good care. So that became a really large amount of money over time, over the next couple of years. The amount of money we were paying for outside care was easily 2 or 3 times as much as what we were paying to the child care org. So management wanted to get rid of the outside child care. And we were getting less and less money, and I couldn't keep him with the good nannies. And he was getting closer and closer to preschool age, and I wanted him to go to real school. In between that, so we were on the subject of me leaving, so this is becoming a real problem, because I don't want him educated as a Scientologist. Now, you don't tell people this. I told you about Mike Housen. Well, Mike's wife, Katie, had young children too. We tried arranging a round robin with mothers taking care of the kids. We go, we don't need study time. I don't care about my studying or auditing. I don't care. I'd rather spend that time with my kids. And we all agreed to this. So, you talk about irresponsible parents, but we were willing to give up anything and everything to see our kids and spend time with our kids. Take away my lunch, take away my dinner, take away my study, counseling time, I want that time with my children.
Wow.
And there were a lot of parents like that. And, you still have the guilt thing going on because, you tried this and it didn't happen, but you kept trying. And this lasted it was beautiful setup. I mean, how many kids do we have? 6, 7? What a beautiful number of little children per adult. And we're all parents who really love kids. So, we'd take them to the park or take them here or have them in our rooms or do little kid things with them, And it was just the best setup. And it lasted only 4 or 5 weeks when here comes the Commodore's Messenger Organization again. This is off policy. You need to be going to study. And if you're not going to study, you should be on post. You should not be spending this time taking care of your kids. That's what the child care organization is for. So that didn't work either. And I wasn't putting him back in there, so it's back to outside child care, only though he's getting too old for it. And my ex-husband was lying to me about how unhappy he was there. My ex-husband had decided to move into the house where his babysitter was. It was a very cushy situation. He had his own bedroom. He got to be good friends with this Mexican family. And he liked living there instead of a dorm. So he was very prejudiced in favor of these babysitters. And our son was like a year older than all the other kids. And getting frustrated.
Were you not with your husband? So he's staying at this house?
We're already divorced.
Oh, you're already divorced, okay.
We're divorced, but we still work in the same organization. Sorry.
Okay.
So I need to get him out of this situation. And I went on a leave of absence, so I ended up on the RPF. And saw some of my old friends in Chicago, and it's like, yeah, I want to leave, can we do this, can we set this up, da-da-da-da-da. Slept with an old boyfriend. And thought I had it sorted out. This is the first time I'm telling this. And I'd be on the phone with him because I worked in the call-in center, so I had easy access to telephones. And I wasn't monitored. I was really good. I wrote the policies, for goodness sakes, on phone solicitation. I wrote this stuff. Not that they ever gave me credit, but it was my center. I started it, I wrote the stuff, everything, so nobody monitored me. So I'm talking to the guy like every 2 weeks and stuff, trying to set this up. And as luck would have it, or karma or whatever, he gets a local girlfriend.
No.
And I'm thinking, well, it's not really his responsibility to get me out of there. That's mine, not his. And, that was a lot to ask. And I was probably a little too wishy-washy about that. But I already had this feeling of unworthiness with my own family. So it was an easy thing to fall into. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? And a mission came into AOLA, and I had the sex. Even though I was single, and the other person was single, I had sex, and I wasn't married.
That's a no-no.
Yeah. So they keep trying to get me in session. I'm in the middle of OT3 too, by the way. I don't want to get on the cans. I don't want anyone to know about this, right?
So you're having issues on OT3.
Right, and I've just slept with this guy, and nobody knows about it yet. And I go to Ivan, and I said, and Ivan and I were good friends because we worked so closely together. He was my immediate senior for years and years. I was like, Ivan, I got a problem.
You gotta help me.
Well, yeah, I went to him for help, and it was the only time he'd let me down. And he did let me down. He must have been terrified of that mission too, or I don't know what was going on with him. I won't even begin to say, but he let me down. I went to him and said, this is the problem. I've got to go into a sec check, and I have slept with somebody a few months ago. And I didn't tell him the rest. I didn't tell him that I wanted to leave or any of that, because that would have been too much. It's enough to say, I'm about to get busted big time. And he arranged the session. And the auditor was nice as can be, but you know what? I don't want her losing all her certificates and everything else because I didn't tell this. And back then I still believed in the meter. Stupid was I. Or I would have just gotten away with it.
What were you hoping that he would do that he didn't?
I was hoping he'd give me some kind of advice, get out of the sec check, something. And so I'm with the auditor and she's trying to get this whatever, the withhold, and to miss a withhold means you get punished severely. To miss means to not find out. You get punished severely, and I still believed in the e-meter bit. But I just loved the counselor. It was someone I really respected and admired. I didn't want that to happen to her. She actually helped people. She's sweet.
That would happen to the auditor if they didn't.
If I don't tell.
Okay. Right.
You know, it's like your gunman or a rapist or whatever saying, if you don't cooperate with me, I'm going to rape your friend. It's that same basis. It's the love for the other person that makes you tell something you don't want to tell. So I just said, it's like, look, I'll just put down the cans. Let me just tell you. Told her. So, sent to the RPF or out to the law. I was single, he was single. And they didn't tell me I was going to the RPF. I got given a committee of evidence. They didn't tell me that. And they put me on some nasty, nasty job scraping, what were they, maggots off the bottom of the dumpster at the Celebrity Center. Wow. With no bleach, no anything, no rags, just a scraping maggots with my hands in the scraper.
If I may ask, the committee, you actually got a committee of evidence?
Mm-hmm. They sent me to the RPF for opportunity.
Did you go in front of?
Oh, wait a second, I take that back. That wasn't until later. I'm sorry. I've mixed up 2 different times. No. At that time, I was assigned directly to the RPF. I didn't have the committee of evidence yet.
Okay.
But I didn't know it yet. So they're saying until you find out the results of this, or what they're going to do, you're over at Celebrity Center.
Scraping maggots.
Scraping maggots. And I'm doing this, and they're like, oh, okay, need to talk to you. Send like my senior or somebody over there. It's an RPFer.
Where's your son at this time?
My son is in the childcare. No, he's at the babysitter. I had the outside nanny.
The outside nanny, okay.
Yeah, the one that he was too old to be there. That I was trying to get him out. But my ex-husband disagreed with me because he thought he was fine there because he was living there. Anyway.
So you're wearing the black.
I'm over at Celebrity Center.
The boiler suit.
I'm not in the boiler suit yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm still staff. I'm still AOLA staff. I'm not on the RPF yet. And I'm scraping these things waiting to see what's going to happen.
Disgusting.
And they're pulling me aside, go, okay, I'm going to tell you, I need to talk to you. Okay, now it's coming down. I can't remember really the guy that told me this. It wasn't somebody that, but it says you're going to the RPF, and then suddenly there's 3 people besides him around there ready to physically escort me to the RPF. I said, no, I'm not. It's like, you're going to the RPF. I started running. I make it to the parking lot at CCLA. I said, not going to the RPF. Nobody here can make me. And a crowd's growing. I can't believe that they actually did this. Here I am, and I'm just this, I weighed like 105 pounds. You gotta understand how tiny I was then too. And And I'm standing there in these grubbies going, no, 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 I am not going to the RPF, and I'm just refusing. And the circle gets bigger and bigger with more and more people. And there's like 12 people surrounding me, and there are other security people are joining them, and other public are joining them. I don't know what they think. Am I like nuts? And they're trying to contain a nutty person? I don't know. And I was like, there's no exit from the circle. There is no exit. And I just go, just started walking. I'm like thinking, maybe I'll just walk away now. And I got physically taken.
It's amazing.
To the RPF. It took hours of waiting, and to find out that they removed everything from my birthing, all my personal belongings, all my personal possessions. And they're sitting there with this thing I'm supposed to sign to go to the RPF. I said, I don't want to go to the RPF. I want to rat out. That's my choice. It's RPF or ratting out, right? I want to rat out. And they said, no, that's not the choice. If you're going to rat out, you have to rat out through the RPF. Now, the reason I'm saying rat out is because my son loves his father. He may be my ex-husband. He may be the worst husband in the world or the best husband in the world or whatever. We're divorced. My son loves him. Okay? If I blow and get declared, we're not allowed to talk to him. My son can't see him again. It was wrong on so many levels. So many levels. It was wrong to my ex-husband. It was wrong to my son. I couldn't do that. I wanted to route out. Figured it'd take, 3 months? 2 months, 3 months. And here's the spiel, the RPF spiel, on and on for hours. Yes, you can see your son. Yes, you can do this. Yes, we'll give you your sec checks. Yes, we'll do this and that. And they're not going to let me go. And they're not leaving me alone, not for 1 minute. I said, but it didn't go that way. Didn't go that way at all. I was on no more than a week or two when I reminded them of their promise to let me rat out through the RPF. And I mentioned it to my twin, because you're assigned somebody to do.
I was going to ask about that.
To get each other through the RPF.
To keep each other in, actually, right?
Yeah, well, my twin reported me straight away. And the RPF MAA was a man who I had no interest in since forever, who had come on to me from back when I was 16 years old. Okay, his name was Kurt Hahn. He had it in for me, spurned, whatever. And he was just the evilest little shit on the RPF. He just loved it. And he'd been, he just loved this. And he's RPF MAA. Oh man, I hated that man. I had no interest in, to make a long story short, back when I was still, going, none of this makes sense, I disagree with keeping Scientology working. He and the course supervisor worked together to get me in session, to get my objectives, because I wasn't there enough to have Scientology. And what that is where the auditor controls you and what you do. And you don't get to stop doing this stupid thing until you're like, oh yeah, that was great, and you let the auditor totally control you. So Kurt Hahn's my auditor. I can't stand the guy back when I was 16.
Wow.
And he's like, you walk to that wall, you touch that wall, you turn around, thank you, and all this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for hours. And I just hated it. So yeah, I learned from that unless you give in, they're just going to keep on you and keep on you and keep pounding on you in every which way until you give in and let them control you. That was the lesson I learned from that. I hated that. I was on there for a year. Yeah. Supposed to, and I couldn't get these sec checks. So I tell my twin. My twin reports me. And Kurt Hahn's the RPF MEA, and he puts out this Interrogatory on Sheila Huber. Interrogatory. Let's find out. She's been getting everybody upset on the RPF. Somebody shot those interrogatories towards me. 2 people. I had mentioned, yes, I want to route out 2 people in the entire RPF. Kurt doesn't show any. Well, we found you were a major source of interpolation, da 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 da. I said, Kurt, it was 2 people. One of them was my twin. You're full of it. Now this makes him more and more angry. And I haven't been on the RPF long enough to realize what a power trip people can get on here. Right? I thought I could just talk to the guy. No. He assigns me to the RPF's RPF. Just prior to that, I've been on only 2-3 weeks. It's not too bad. At least I've got my son at night with me in a shared dorm. I mean, it's bad, but I've got my son with me. At least at night. And it's a shared dorm with 2 other moms that are on the RPF with their kids.
2 other moms in the RPF?
Yeah, 3 moms and 3 kids in one room. Okay? And it's just a room. It's not, it's a room with a bathroom. You wouldn't even call it a studio apartment. It's a hospital room. Okay? And while I'm on the RPF, he takes away my spot in that room to be with my son. I'm on the RPF's RPF, and there's another new experience for me. I get to sleep in the sump room of the complex, where all the poo gets sumped out. Okay? Whoa. Smelly. It's cold concrete. I'm in the tunnels. All the RPF lives in the tunnels. We're like little rats in the tunnels. We're only allowed to wear navy blue and really awful looking clothes too. I mean, let's just say if hip huggers were in fashion, we're wearing waist highs. You know what I mean? We're wearing things that are just...
So I was right about the navy blue being the RPF. Do you guys remember when I was sharing one of the Darth Sander videos and all those little kids had navy blue on? They had navy blue or black. I was right about the RPF being blue as well.
So, from the secondhand stores, whatever. And we get to wear these little rags around our arms to show our status on the RPF. RPF, orange. So here I am, and I've got no blanket. I've got no pillow. I just sleep with my head on that concrete floor of the gagoon, 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 gagoon. Going on all night long. No showers. Meals are, normal RPF meals are 20 minutes, mine's 10. I ate the RPFs. The RPF eats the leftovers from the complex. I ate the RPF's leftovers. Okay, if there are any. And there's no...
Imagine all the children going through that. Isn't that awful?
Study time other than time to work on my conditions formulas, where I'm supposed to come out of confusion and treason as a Scientologist and realize that Scientology really works after all, right?
It really is me. I'm the problem.
I'm under 24-hour guard. I can't go to the bathroom without someone actually, in that bathroom with me if it's got a window. Otherwise, they're outside the door. It is escape impossible, truly. They take shifts watching the RPF's RPF. After it was supposed to be, I'm reading the RPF references, and you're not supposed to be on there for wanting to leave. You're not supposed to be on there until you decide that you're part of Scientology, but then it doesn't quite spell it out either, does it?
They actually have a list.
There's no real time limit there, is it?
They have a list of reasons for sending people to the RPF?
Yeah, but it's, when you read it closely, you go, this is so general, you can almost throw anything under there. So I'm a source of interpolation. That fits, right?
And that's how they design it. So just any little thing you can be punished for. It's actually exactly like narcissism. Narcissism and Scientology mirror each other. But of course, Scientology is a mind control program. I won't go into who designed it, but it's absolutely. Go look into twinning. Go look into, what else? I can't think of it right now, but twinning is one that you should look into.
And RPF had, 80, 90 people on it. So 2 people out of 90, one of which was my twin, knows I want to leave. I'm a source of interpolation.
The RPF had 80 people on it?
I was small then.
How many people?
Wow, there were times like when I first came in 77, it was like 400 people because they had to get the renovations done in the complex. So everybody
So
got
the number balloons up, right? The number balloons up to get a big project done, and then once the project's done, it starts to shrink back down.
Or when you have somebody that knows it's totally wrong, like Harry Gleason. He was EDN for a couple of years. He reproved everybody. And he was shot for it. I mean, not shot literally, but I mean, he was shot. He reproved the whole RPF. That's a great story.
Wow.
And everybody hated him for that. His CMO, the Commodore's Messenger Organization, Flag, all these other management organizations just came down on him so heavily. He let everybody off. That was really cool. I mentioned that I had worked for estates my first year. So I was assigned to do the equivalent of cleaning the bilges on the ship. We didn't have ships, obviously, but to that meant the grease traps in the galley, the kitchen area. And this is some really, really disgusting area that's loaded with rats and roaches and just, it's a horror. And Kurt Hahn personally, with a smile, escorted me down here from my job while I was on the RPF's RPF. And told the cook that and left. And the cook says to me, I remember you. You used to work in the States. I said, yeah. He goes, you're not cleaning that. You don't have to clean that. And this was the kind of camaraderie we did have.
You know, that's refreshing. That's refreshing. So there are people within Scientology that kind of protect each other. And even though I know there's a lot of abuse of children, I do think there are some people protecting. Obviously, the children that were abused were not protected. But I do think there's some types of protections going on. I'm not making any excuses. But I think, let's just say like 1 out of 10 people, they're going to make sure certain things do not occur. You know, maybe I'm just wishful thinker.
Back then where there was a lot of this that went on with the good people just refusing to do things that hurt each other or degrade each other. And Kurt Hahn obviously was an exception to that. But he gave me other cleaning jobs to do that were just normal sort of things. And I washed dishes for the longest time too. And you know, you still work till absolute exhaustion and you're still getting just 4 hours sleep a night. And I'm on this concrete in the sump room. And, you know, I think that went on for about 3 weeks before I really couldn't take it anymore. So, because I tried doing these formulas, DOP formula, I want to leave. Right. No, not accepted. And I did a couple of these. Not accepted, not accepted. So there was only one answer that I was allowed to come up with to get off the RPF's RPF. And it's like, oh yeah, Scientology is great. I just love it. I want to be a Scientologist. I want to be in the Sea Org. I want to do the RPF. You're kidding. How can they think anyone's sincere? You put them through that and you think that they would want that? And so, yeah, I go, okay, well, I better give them the answer they want or I'm not getting off. I'm not going to see my son.
So that was like your guides that you were
Right. And I didn't know that they'd taken away my spot in the dorm. They didn't tell me that. I thought I was going to get off and see my son, and they were using that to motivate me. Well, you better finish this so you can see your son. But I didn't get to see him. They took him out of there. He was only 4 years old. I came out of there, and Kurt Hahn, with a big grin on his face, let me know that there was somebody else that was on the RPF with a kid, and since I was on the RPF, they had to give them my place, and I was just in a regular dorm, and I couldn't have my son with me at night at all. And it was so illegal. I had sole custody. I had sole custody legally when I divorced. And I was like, wow. And what do? Here he is, here's my son, staying at this place with a babysitter where my ex-husband lives. And I'm like, oh, the heck with this, I'm gonna sneak out. And I'm gonna just go get him. And I snuck out, but I'm dressed in the RPF clothes. But now I snuck out because I knew the tunnels. Oh, I knew those tunnels inside out. Nobody knew those tunnels like I did. I was in the States. I could draw a map of them.
Tunnels. Tunnels. You know, the tunnels that the City Council of Los Angeles are kind of denying are there. The tunnels that are being worked on right now without permits that could cause the entire building to crash in and hurting the Scientologists that are living there. Yeah, those tunnels.
So I knew where there were exit doors, and people didn't know there were exit doors and ways to get to those exit doors. So there was a way out through near what's called LA Org, which was the Class 4 organization of PAC. You got the Class 4, Class 6, and, you know, we were a Class 12 at AOLA. So just, you know, that's how Los Angeles was set up. And snuck out from there, went to get him, and the babysitter barred me because she's a diehard Scientologist, and said that my ex-husband has said I might try to come see my son, and she should report me immediately if that happened. And she wouldn't even let me see him.
What recourse could you take in that situation?
I don't know. I mean, if I weren't back within minutes, they'd be after me, because this place was only half a block from the complex. So the paranoia that somebody's behind me or over my shoulder, or somebody's coming up, or somebody sees me, and the fact that I was in RPF Blues, which is a red flag to everybody. This person isn't where they should be. What do? You know, I had only minutes before someone would catch up with me, so I headed back and go, I gotta think of something better than this. Whether they knew about it or not, the supervision got really, really tight again, and I was like, well, okay, I've been off the RPF for 3 weeks, I'm just gonna tell them again, give me my sec checks, I want to leave. Right, so give me my sec checks, I want to leave. And no, can't give you your sec checks yet. You're in the non-interference zone. You have to get through OT3. But you can't get through OT3 yet because you want to leave. And because, this is just the most twisted thing, because I wanted to leave, I had to get this rundown called the exteriorization rundown. And it's a horror when it's not fun anyway for anybody, but it's a horror when the reason you want to leave is physical. When you're actually in a physical situation and it's not just something in your head, all right? But they're treating it like it's something in my head. Like I'm not actually physically trapped here. It's all in my head because I should want to be here. Everybody wants to be in the Sea Org. Everybody wants to be a Scientologist. I must be, have some problem in my auditing that I would want to leave. It's so insane. So I'm getting this rundown that's all about, tell us about the times you went in, tell us about times you were stuck in, you were made to go in, and you're supposed to go through your entire whole track, meaning your past lives and whatnot, to come up with these incidents. And something happened during my session where I think my will was entirely broken. And the needle just kept going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher.
And you know that that's exactly how it is planned. So, my personal opinion, and I strongly feel that L. Ron Hubbard with the black teeth, the drug addict, I don't even feel that he had the cognitive ability to come up with all of these policies. He might have come up with some of them. I don't believe he was acting alone. Yep, I said it.
I think the limit is GA 5.0 or so. It was already all the way to the end of the dial. And my twin is doing this thing on me. And all of a sudden it crashes. And I just go, and I literally fall from my chair. She falls from hers. It was like the energy release was so huge, but it wasn't a good release. It was just like, I give up. And I think from that moment,
Imagine them holding the child as collateral, because she's not the first person that has talked about this. Sick.
went on, I just realized the enemy was too big to fight, you know? That I had to do it their way completely. And I had no choice.
That's called breaking someone's will. And isn't it ironic that Aleister Crowley always said, do as thou wilt? Well, I mean, if you look around in society today, you can see what do as thou wilt is all about. Just go look at Jay-Z. I believe Jay-Z was wearing a t-shirt by Crowley. I could be wrong. But that's all of them. They're all in it. And that's what do as thou wilt is. Whereas this woman here, they were breaking her will. Isn't that great?
I had to get through OT3. That was okay. Didn't take that long. It took a long time to get a twin trained up, to give me whatever preparations. That took forever. And then they told me to do OT4.
Before you could route out?
Yeah. And I'm like, OT4, but you never had a drug rundown. But I haven't done drugs since I was like 16. At this point, how old was I? 25 years old. Come on, you're kidding. I haven't taken an aspirin since then. But it's whole track drugs, and this is just a crazy thing. So, and that's a long one. So, all right, it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was just stupid and a terrible waste of time, and I'm under incredible stress because this whole time I can't see my son. There was like a couple of weeks where my ex-husband brought him by during my meals, and then he just decided not to do that anymore. So
That's what you call psychopathic. They want to break her down. They want her will broken. And it seems to never be enough for them. So I understand a lot of people, when they're in Scientology, they're under mind control. But you can't tell me that inside somewhere they know what they're doing is wrong, whether they're narcissistic or not. Because really, all of L. Ron Hubbard's policies are narcissistic. So people that are enforcing the policies are going to come across as narcissistic. It doesn't mean they're a narcissist. But taking her son and then using her son as collateral, it's the worst level of sickness, in my opinion.
So OT4, and then my mind is breaking because I'm getting all this stuff, and time is going by, and I'm not raising my son, and I'm worried, and I'm not even allowed to write to my ex-husband, how is he doing, whatever, because I'm an RPFer and I'm a down stat, because I'm there for out 2D.
And the chances are they're working on the ex-husband at the same time, because he kind of seems like, I don't know him personally, but he seems kind of like a decent guy. I mean, bringing the child in there like that's really cruel, but they were probably working him up too. So who knows what they were saying behind the scenes.
Because I had sex with someone else who was single when I was single. Therefore, I must be a terrible mother. And then, oh man, it was terrible. Kurt Hahn was actually starting to blackmail me too. He was saying things like, well, you know, you may have custody now, but you know, you're such a terrible mother and you did this and that, that we can definitely change that. So he's like threatening me that if I don't cooperate, my son is going to go to my ex-husband legally somehow. And, you know, I'm going, oh my God. And so I get through that, and finally, one day, Ivan Obelinsky's personal communicator comes to the RPF. She's there. I know this girl. She's a Chicago girl, okay? And she is literally just a girl. I think she was only like 20 then herself. And she comes there, and I take her aside. I said, I didn't speak to you. You spoke to me. Because you can't...
Right, you can't initiate a conversation.
I said, please take my folders and have Sandy Will here. Look at them. Sandy Will here was the senior case supervisor at AOLA. Please. And I'm going crazy at this point. I'm just broken. I don't know how to put it. I have no hope. I have no family. I have no friends. I don't want to be in the RPF. I can't get off the RPF. Can't even see my...
This reminds me of Jenna Miscavige, what she was going through, except for, well, there were no children involved in the whole situation with Jenna Miscavige because she didn't have her children yet. Only difference being that Jenna was a child at the time. And this is going on right now as we speak. Worst part about it is it's happening to children. Government doesn't care. FBI doesn't care. Homeland Security doesn't care. Immigration and Naturalization Services don't care. Department of Education doesn't care. Los Angeles Police Department doesn't care. Clearwater Police don't care. Denver Police don't care. Nobody cares about these children. Or as far as that goes, some of these adults that are in distress. Or the children that are being held as collateral.
Child. I'm getting auditing that the more I get, the worse I get. And I have to do it. And I don't know anybody in LA. So she takes my folders there. And Sandy, bless her heart, because that woman had guts and she was cool. Sandy wrote, like, they're called crayons, they're instructions saying everybody was out, tech, from the bottom up through the RPF, everybody that had anything to do with my counseling, my auditing, with not giving me the sec checks, everybody, administrative and technical, all the way through, got a report written on them.
From his hand.
Now that took stones. That's something I can admire. About time.
And it was a gutsy move on her part because she was a technical person. She was not an administrative person. And even at that time period, now that time period is just after L. Ron Hubbard died. Just after. Because when I went in the RPF, he wasn't dead yet. I'm still in the RPF, L. Ron Hubbard has died. So we're talking management has changed a lot. Things have gotten really strict. And people are pretty scared. And
Every time she says strict, just say abusive.
Sandy Wellhair did that for me. She told them she's been wanting to leave. you won't let her leave. Give her psych checks and let her go. To make a long story short. And I don't know exactly everything she wrote. I just know a little bit from one of the guys that helped me through the psych checks. So, and how long do the psych checks take? 2 weeks.
So you could have been out of there just 2 weeks without...
Yeah. 2 weeks. I had nowhere to go, but I mean, it was such a joyous day.
Kind of reminds me of the Lisa McPherson situation, as well as Lori Mills. I mean, she wasn't having a psychotic break here, but it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know, the psychosis, the mental distress, or the abuse. You know what I'm saying?
Again, I got my stuff, and I went to get my son, and my heart just soared. I was like, and I pick him up and I go, we're going now. You don't ever have to go back there again. And he was so happy. And yeah, so that's how I left.
Were you able to find a support network?
No. What I did was, I told you I'd been the director of inspections and reports. I was over the ethics section, and I'd helped a lot of people out that had been in trouble with senior management, people that were borderline Scientologists. And I also learned a few things from them, from what I'd seen, okay? So if I could contact these people, I could get a bit of help, but I didn't know how to contact them. And the only person I knew was half a block away from there, and it was someone that owned an apartment building, really crappy apartment building, mind you, but that had once been rented out to some of the ALI staff, and I was there for maybe a month or two. And I just knocked on the door and asked him, I said, look, you know, I've got my little boy here, I've got nowhere to go. Please help me. I've got nowhere to stay. And he took me in, and I stayed in the manager's flat, sleeping on the couch.
That's what you call a decent human being. How about that?
My son had a little kid-sized mattress. I slept on the floor. And got a job, and somehow, some way, there's somebody in that building managed to connect up with the Israelis. The Israeli Scientologists.
Yeah.
Because for a time, these people still believed that they could still be Jewish and be Scientologists.
Right.
And I'm sure that they found out that that's not quite the case. And one of them owed me a big favor because he had a good friend that had been declared a suppressive person, and I worked really hard to get that removed.
That's so interesting. And honestly, I'm not surprised to hear that it was a Jewish man that helped her. I'm not surprised. That's what true ethics is, Scientology. Imagine that. All this talk about ethics, but yet a lot of you have none. Not all of you, but a lot of you have none.
So they're very loyal, and he told me anything I needed at any time. So I called him up and I said, okay, I need your help. And so that gave me a little bit of money, enough to have transportation and buy some clothes so that I could look presentable to a job, you know. And, you know, got just a normal secretary job and
Like a boss.
went out from there. Just let me out.
I would need to.
So that's it, you guys. I will leave a link in the description box. Peace.